My name is Deirdre Williams, and I'll be joined by my colleague Suzanne Hall. So we're from the BTEC and T-level product team. So I'll just be going through today the outcomes of the review of the qualifications reforms in England. We'll have an opportunity at the end to ask questions, and we can put questions into the chat as well. And once I'm through the presentation, we'll start looking at answering those questions. You'll see in the presentation I give today, there's lots of hyperlinks to useful documentation from the Department for Education and from Pearson. We will share this presentation with you so that you can use it with your colleagues. The idea of this presentation today is to give an overview of what's happening across the level 3 and level 2 post-16 landscape when it comes to funding, and it will give some information on a sectorial basis, qualification by qualification, but we also are running subject-specific events over the next couple of weeks that you can attend if that is reflective of what you need a deeper information. So we'll go through the outcomes of the review, just giving a bit of a timeline, what has happened to date. We will be looking at what the impact is of the funding and the implications and who the different, has a different impact on across the United Kingdom, so who it does and doesn't impact. And we will be going through looking at the sectors that we offer and the actions that need to be done over the next year or into the next academic year, post level 16, the guidance support that's available from Pearson, next steps in the reforms just to watch out, and also there'll just be some highlights about where T levels are available from Pearson, where you can get any resources or more information. So just jumping back in time, so you can see this is what's happened in the last 4 years, where the reform process started in 2021. And in 2022, we started seeing qualifications being defunded. 2023, awarding organisations submitted and had new qualifications funded. And then we come to 2024 and we see there's a pause. There's a pause in new qualifications being submitted to the department, but also a pause to defunding as the new government elections were announced. And then as soon as the new government was in place, a rapid review or a focused review of post-16 qualifications was announced. In December, we received the outcomes of those reforms, and that is what we're going to be talking through today. So just as a reminder, if those of you know we're all in different parts of this journey, is that this rapid review was called by the minister, and the initial look at this was looking at qualifications that were going to be defunded on the 31st of July 2025, re-looking at those qualifications and understanding which of these qualifications needed to be extended for a little bit longer so that we could ensure that that there was enough qualifications in the landscape to be delivered alongside T levels and A levels. And also there were some lists of qualifications that had been already defunded, again re-looking at those lists and whether those qualifications should be extended further. So originally it was really looking at 2025, but as you will see, this is now looking at what's happening in 2026 as well. So where have we landed? So this slide, and as I say, I will share with it afterwards. You can go to all the links provided by the Department for Education. So all the announcements they've made to date, lists of qualifications and any FAQs that they have produced, so that you can see what this means to you. But where the messaging is that there's 157 qualifications that should have been defunded on the 31st July 2025 that have either been extended until the 31st of July 2026 or the 31st July 2027. And those were across multiple sections and sectors. They've also rolled back on the rules of combination. So there was going to be a rule that you had to teach one alternative academic qualification with 2 A levels. And the department have now, the new guidance is we will not be applying rules of combinations. You can teach what is right for your learners and for their progression needs and how you select your curriculum. And the DfE talk about certainty. So because of the curriculum and assessment review, and because of this pause to defunding, we'll now be able to give clarity of how a qualification is funded up until 2027. So we're talking about a new cohort starting in 25-26 academic year, and those cohorts starting in 26-27. So it's those 2 further cohorts. You should have a clearer idea of what you're able to deliver in your schools and colleges. Great. So who's impacted by this funding? So I think we ran a similar session earlier this week. So just want to make clear that this is really the qualifications defunding is focused on centres in England who are reliant on EFSA funding. So if you are a centre in Wales, the qualifications remain funded for 25-26 and the 26-27 cohorts, and there's a funding guide. We have a funding guide for Northern Ireland. For independent schools and colleges, the qualifications remain available for those two further academic years, so 2 new cohorts. So you can continue to teach those qualifications. And the same is for Isle of Man and the Channel Islands. And if a learner is an apprentice, so what we mean by an apprentice, they're using a BTEC or any other level 3 or level 2 qualification as part of the on-program delivery or as a mandatory component, they're not impacted by any funding implications. Those qualifications remain available to deliver to those learners. So what does this mean in England? So the department's the Department for Education's announcements in December, the key outcomes are, so the new qualifications, the alternative academic qualifications and technical qualifications, which were announced earlier in 2024 in Cycle 1, will be continued to be first teach September 2025. What this means is, and these qualifications are considered a small qualification, so equivalent to 1 A levels, are normally taken in a study program alongside 2 other qualifications. Any qualification that was in that space, be it a 180 or 360 qualification, will be defunded from the 31st July 2025, and then will be replaced with one of these technical qualifications. The study, as I said, the study program rule has been scrapped. So again, it reverts back to centres creating the study program that is right for their learners and their specific progression needs. What you will see that each sector, each group of qualifications have been reviewed independently and therefore have a bespoke outcome. And I've tried to group them today where we have similar outcomes where you can just don't have to worry for a couple of years, and where there are others that have nuances in the funding. And also level 2, where there were Cycle 1, will be continued for first teach September 2025. So what does that look like? So what we've created, and when you get this presentation, you can go to this. We have a funding guide where we've outlined every single qualification when it's where it's currently funded to. So we're going to go through this in a bit more detail. So when you open up the funding guide, you will see this is just an example from Equine, from our land suite, where it will tell you the cohort for 24-25, yes, these qualifications are funded. Learners starting in 25-26, the qualification is funded for the 2-year study program, and again 26-27. So where you see the yes means that you can take on another cohort and deliver that qualification for a new cohort for a new academic year, and the qualifications remain funded. If you see a red no, that means that particular year that qualification will not be funded for a new cohort of learners, and a few might have TBA, and that's where a new qualification is coming into in the next couple of years. The Department of Education has a single source of truth. It's called a qualifications search, list of qualifications approved for funding, and this will have every single qualification that is available and list funding until the 31st of July 2027, what the funding status is. The list currently is out of date. The department is going to be updating this again in January. That's because there were some appeals that still need to go through, but at the end of January, the list will then be complete, and you'll have for certainty for every qualification the funding outcome in one place, and that's across all awarding organisations. Great. So the sectors you see on the screen at the moment: the business, sport, creative media, travel and tourism, art and design, esports, land, uniform protective service, hospitality, music and performing arts. So these all qualifications in these subject areas continue to teach with confidence. So we have this current cohort, 25, 26, 26, 27, all sizes of qualifications remain funded. And you can refer to the guide of the list of qualifications, and you can see which individual qualifications we have available in these sectors. But they've all had their funding extended until the 31st of July 2027. So you'll be able to continue teaching all sizes of these qualifications till at least the 31st July 2027, as in funded until the 31st July 2027. As a reminder, if a learner is registered on a qualification and starts on a 2-year program, they're funded for the duration of the qualification. So, for example, if learners start in September 2026, they'll be funded all the way through until they certificate on the chosen qualification. Great. Okay, so for those sectors that I've just shared, the actions are that you can continue to register on these qualifications. You don't have to change how you register your learners. So if you do a top-up program, you can continue to do that. Or if you do register on a 2-year program, you can continue to do that for 24, 25, and 25, 26. And at the moment, they are funded until the 31st July 2027. Great. So these sectors that are now on the screen, these are where we have a bit more nuance happening and more bespoke arrangements when it comes to funding. So these are the construction engineering, applied psychology, health and social care, applied science, forensics, early years, IT computing, and applied human biology. So these what were the department referred to as Cycle 1 sectors. So these are the first sectors that were reformed. And this is where we were expecting funding. These qualifications originally were already funded 31st July 2025. Now, in these sectors, some of these qualifications have additional funding and also new qualifications. So I've broken these down by a sector basis. So first of all of those sectors now have some new qualifications called the alternative academic qualifications. And these are 360 GLH size, so 1 A-level in size, and they replace the extended certificates. So where you see these across the board, awarding organizations, you will see in that sizes anything below 360 GLH in those earlier sectors will be defunded and replaced by these alternative academic qualifications, which are basically applied generals. They are very similar in nature with how they are assessed, how they are structured. So these are the new versions that come into play. And so this has an impact when we look at individuals. So we'll start with health and social care. So you'll see with health and social care, the first 2 titles, you will be teaching this year the 180 and the 360. However, the extended certificate and the certificate are defunded from this year, the 31st July 2025. So you won't be able to enroll a new cohort after this academic year. But those qualifications are replaced by this new alternative academic qualification, which is for First Teach September 2025. The department has continued to keep the foundation diploma, the 510 qualification, defunded. So that is not available from this September onwards, but they have extended funding on the 2A level and the 3A level equivalent, the 720 and the 1080. So they're available for this academic year and next academic year. So if you start on a qualification, a new set of learners in September, you can register them on the 720 or the 1080, but you won't be able to do a 2-year program as in a 510 and then top up to a 1080 or 360 and top up to a 1080. You start them on the program that they will complete on. So the action for this academic year lies around the 180 and the 360. So if you have learners currently on a certificate and you're intending to top them up in September to a 360, you will need to do a transfer for those learners now. So you will need to register, move their registration to a 360 extended certificate. And you need to do that before the 31st July, and that's to continue to secure funding for your 2-year study program. We'll be writing to all centres that we know have registered learners and on these programs, so that just reminding them that this is what you'll need to do, and also guidance on how to do that. And then the action for the 2025 academic year is, again, is that you won't be able to do a top-up model for those learners. You'll register them on a 720 and a 1080. We will keep the other sizes available. So if your learner is unable to complete, for example, the 720 or the 1080 size, you'll be able to fall back and claim a smaller size if they have completed enough units. But from a funding perspective, to be able to gain funding, you will have to register them next year on those larger sizes. And then we have the same scenario happening in applied science and forensic science, where you see the 180/360 being defunded, replaced by an alternative academic qualification, and the larger sizes extended for a longer period of time. You will see that for forensic, the 510 has been extended for one additional year. And in this space, the department are looking at offering auditing organizations an opportunity to build larger size alternative academic qualifications. We haven't yet seen the guidance or what that will look like, but that is potential that there'll be something new for 26/27. As soon as we have clearer guidance, which we believe is going to be published late January, early February, we will speak to centres again about where the future holds. But as it stands, these current qualifications, the 720s and 1080s, have one further academic year, which has been extended. And then if we look at applied human biology is defunded this year, and the replacement is the medical science qualification. So this is a direct qualification change. So if you used to deliver applied human biology, the replacement qualification is the medical science. So again, you have the 180/360, you need to transfer the learners before the 31st of July, and then all new starts need to start on the medical science qualification in 2025 in September. Applied psychology, we've had funding extended for one additional year, so for 25/26. There's no action for this year. And 26/27, currently there is no alternative qualification as a vocational qualification. Again, the outcomes of this might change after the CAR review as findings have been released. But as it stands, we've got one additional academic year to deliver these qualifications. And so early years, most of the suite has been defunded this academic year already. So all we have left now, so any early years educator qualifications, those are no longer available. Learners from this year would have had to have enrolled in a T-level or an apprenticeship. But those learners who do the 1A level equivalent, it's the final year of CPLD, and it will be replaced next year by the qualification called Early Childhood Development. So that's the direct replacement. You'll see the two qualifications at the end that say yes for this year. Those were the qualifications, our fallback qualifications. So that's where people were on earlier qualifications and they didn't gain the license to practice. They were able to transfer to those qualifications for the purposes of going to university. So they weren't never available as direct registrations, but as a move to university if people weren't able to gain the license to practice. So again, for those who have got learners on the program this academic year, and if they are not successful, they don't get through all their practical, we'll still be able to issue an alternative certificate to support progression to university for those learners. So that remains in place for this year. IT and computing, we have the same mix, very similar to health and social care and applied science, where again 180s and 360s are defunded, replaced by the alternative academic qualifications, and at one additional year's funding for the 720s and 1080s, and that's across the computing and IT. So again, the action for this year is if you've registered on the 180 and your learner's intention is to move to the larger size, they will need to do that, be transferred by the 31st of July this year. And then we go to engineering. So engineering is an interesting one because the department wants a little bit more time to develop further qualifications and to review the T-level. So the qualifications have been extended for a little bit longer. So where we see the no's, again, we have this situation where the extended certificate is replaced by the alternative academic qualification. And the two qualifications where we see no, those qualifications were defunded, the 720 in electrical and electronic engineering and the 720 in mechanical engineering. They were defunded because the registrations have been low on those of funded learners. However, those qualifications in the majority of the learners on those are apprentices. So those qualifications remain available for apprentices. So they just, for learners who are not an apprenticeship, they won't be funded next year. But if they are an apprenticeship, you can still register your learners on those qualifications. So again, the nuance here is learners who are registered on the 180 need to be transferred by the 31st of July. And then just as a reminder, the AAQ will not nest with the 720 and the 1080. So if learners' intention is next year to do a 720 or a 1080 size, you can't start them on alternative academic qualification. You will need to either start them on the 540, the 720, or the 1080. Great, where have we got to? And then construction is, majority of the qualifications are defunded this year. It's the last year, except for we have, again, the 360 is replaced with the alternative academic qualification. And if your learner is currently on a 360 and their ambition is to transfer up to the larger 720s or 1080s, they will need to do that by the 31st of July. So just as a warning, that just making sure that the learners are registered on the right qualification. Majority of the learners on the 720s in these qualifications are doing this as part of an apprenticeship. So those still remain available for those learners come September. So it's just those that are funded by the EFSA on full-time study programs, that funding will no longer be in place. And then in sports, we have one qualification that is impacted by changes to funding. So that is the BTEC National Diploma in Sports Fitness and Personal Training. That has got a direct replacement. It's now got a technical occupational entry for personal trainer. It's a very similar qualification, but so that comes into play in September 2025. So if learners are currently on the extended certificate and they plan to top up to the sports and fitness size diploma in sports fitness personal training, again, you will need to make those transfers by the 31st July 2025. We will have clear guidance on our website. We are putting out communications around this to support centres, and also we will be sending targeted communications and reminders to centres where we know have traditionally used the qualifications in a top-up in these subjects. So just to make sure that centres have their learners on the correct qualification, for the next academic year. Great. So, and just again, where as this world is changing, is the qualifications availability versus funding arrangements. So we just need to ensure that, check before registering learners that a qualification is funded in their region, so where you are in the country, and the purpose of study, so that you're able to make sure that you are registering your learners on a qualification that there is funding that's been secured. And just a reminder, you have the list of qualifications from the DFE, which is going to be updated, I said, this month. And Find a Learning Aim, again, will be updated later this month. So you're able to plan with confidence for the next academic year. Great. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Suzanne, who's going to talk you through level 2. Suzanne, are you on the call?
I am, Deirdre. Yes, thank you. Afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to walk you through level 2. Level 2, you'll be probably very pleased to know, is an awful lot simpler than level 3. So in the main, level 2 is remaining the same. We submitted some qualifications as part of cycle 1. So that went in at the same point as the cycle 1 qualifications for level 3. So they have been funded, and these are approved for funding from the 1st of August this year. We submitted 5 qualifications in total. One of them is a brand new qualification, so the level 2 technical occupational entry for lean manufacturing. So this sits within our broader engineering suite. So this is a brand new qualification. The other 4 qualifications are literally, the slides have moved, Deirdre.
Sorry, that's not me. What's going on there? Sorry. Apologies.
The other qualifications that were submitted are literally almost a direct replacement, like for like. So the current children's play learning and development early years practitioner qualification, that will be defunded from the 31st of July this year. It is replaced with a direct replacement. So the level 2 technical occupational entry for early years practitioners, as I said, direct replacement for that. We then have 3 sports qualifications. So we've got a gym instructor qualification, a recreation assistant qualification, and a children's sports activity qualification. Again, they will all be defunded from July. It's jogged on again, Deirdre. I don't know what's happening. Somebody's obviously put a timer in there.
Yeah.
They will be defunded from July of this year, but they are directly replaced with a like-for-like replacement. So you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, we've got the level 2 technical occupational entry for gym instructors. This is a licensed practice qualification. It is a qualification that certificates students to be able to be a gym instructor, gives them ideal progression into personal training qualifications and level 3, but also into directly into work or an apprenticeship. We've slightly tweaked children's sports activities into leading community activity, fundamentally very, very similar. If you already deliver anything to do with like a community sports leader qualification or a higher sports leader qualification, this will really support that delivery. And then the recreation assistant, again, is a like-for-like replacement. So very little change sitting here at level 2, which I'm sure you're all very, very glad to hear. What this also means is that the existing level 2 suites, with the exception of those 4 qualifications I've just talked about, so the existing BTEC First, BTEC Skills, the technical certificates, they will all remain in place and they will all remain funded. We're expecting that funding to remain for at least until 2027 now, because there is no cycle 2 happening in the time frame. But we will let you know once we get the outcome of the curriculum and assessment review, but it does give you a much more longer term trajectory with regards to level 2. There are links on the slides that take you to the new BTEC technicals that I've just been talking about. They're all 100% internally assessed. They're standards verified, just like the rest of our BTEC suite, and there are assignment briefs for each of them, which can be adapted to suit the individual learning need or the environment that the student's working in. We can move to the next slide now, Deirdre.
Brilliant. Thank you. Great. So I'm just going to go through the guidance and support that we have in place and just what you can expect from us over the next few months. So we've got the dedicated level 3 reform page, and that's sort of the single source of truth where we have links to the Department of Education's guidance, but also to our own funding guides for the different regions. We've got a dedicated level 2 reforms page with updates. We'll have regular sector briefings and updates. So today's been this is over everything, but you'll have much, more in-depth conversations with subject leaders in specific areas like health and social care, psychology. So those are happening as we speak over this month, and we will continue over the year just to support where needed. The subject advisors are available for guidance and support. Where learners need to be transferred to funded qualifications where appropriate, we'll be sending out notification to centres and reminders. So please just keep a lookout for your communications that come through from us around this, just to make sure that your learners are on a funded qualification for September next year. And again, we obviously will continue to update our funding guides. So then just on the next step, so as Suzanne alluded to, all other qualifications that were going to be reformed and updated, that has now been paused by the department, and we don't have a date yet for when those qualifications will come forward. So there are multiple qualifications at level 2 and level 3, so we continue with our current qualifications until such time we are able to submit new qualifications. Then the department has announced, and you'll see it in some of their communications, that they are looking for some additional titles in health and social care, applied science, construction, and digital. And as soon as we have details of what is available, available to develop further, and when these qualifications will become online, we'll communicate and work with subject specialists to support the offer in these titles. So we're not sure what these qualifications are at this point. We just know that there is going to be this opportunity for some additional titles in these sectors. And then the rest of the sectors like sport, performing arts, qualifications that need to be retained long term will be informed and reformed by the curriculum and assessment review. So we know that's coming out in August this year, and then we should have a better understanding of what the future, what is going to be happening beyond 2027 in the broader curriculum, and sizes and qualifications that awarding organisations can submit for funding. So I'm just going to hand over to Suzanne just to run through where you can find information about T-levels, and then we'll go back to, I can see there's a lot of questions brewing, that we can run through those questions. Over to you, Suzanne.
Thanks, Deirdre. So as you can see on the screen, Pearson have got the contracts for 10 of the T-level contracts. The subjects are listed there on the right-hand side. There are 2 T-levels that are for First Teach 2025, which we've taken the contracts over from NCFE. So if you're currently delivering digital support services or digital business services, you'll continue your delivery with NCFE and then start the Generation 2 versions of those qualifications this coming September. But at the minute, we hold 10 of the contracts. With regards to the health care science contracts, that announcement should be released reasonably soon from the DFE with regards to who's taking those contracts on. And for those of you who have been delivering construction, you're probably already aware that the on-site construction T-level has basically been removed. So the cohort that started in September 2024 will be the last cohort that will go through those T-levels. From our perspective, as I said, we hold 10 of the contracts. We have a training and admin support page on our main T-level site, which gives you all of the admin materials, all of our on-demand and live training recordings, anything to do with generic training support materials. So some materials will go broadly across the T-level. So for example, examination preparation for the employer set project, you'll find that type of thing sitting on those pages. Each T-level has its own spec page and own website. So from here, you find the spec, the SAMs, exemplar work, past papers, course materials, the qual description, things like that. All of our T-levels use Exam Wizard and Results Plus for the core exams. So if you're familiar using with those 2 systems for maybe BTEC Nationals or maybe functional skills, it's got the same functionality and capacity there for the core exams for all of our T-level papers. As with all of our BTEC subjects, our subject advisors also provide support and guidance with regards to T-levels. From that main spec page, you can book a call with a subject advisor to get more support specifically with regards to the T-level. We also work with a lot of industry experts and employer experts with regards to T-levels. So there's a very specific page that takes you through to support and training that industry professionals have created. It doesn't cover every T-level. Some industry sectors, I'm going to say, are more adventurous when it comes to perhaps providing support. But for example, for the accounting T-level, we've got a lot of support there from the Chartered Institute, ACCA, which provides teaching and learning materials. It provides chartered student status because they're looking at building their pipeline into chartered status for accounting quals. There's also links directly with Sage, QuickBooks, in terms of accounting and cloud-based software packages there too. Every month we do a T-level update. So for those of you who are familiar with that, you will see these dropping into your inbox every month from us, with the exception of August. That's the only time we don't badger you. The archive for all of these is on our website, so you can go back at the archive. At the front end of the updates, it gives you almost a bit of an action guide of things to do in that month or the next month coming up. So particularly things around making exam entries, results, recordings, etc. And then also we have a page specifically with regards to the T-level foundation year. So if you are delivering the T-level foundation year, we've got qualifications that can support the elements of that. One question I get asked a lot about the T-level foundation year is, how do I register onto it? It is not a thing. It is not something that you need to register onto. It's basically the name of another study program, but within that study program, it has various elements, one of them being English and Maths resits. There's an element of work experience, and then there's an element of technical skills. So what we've done at Pearson is pull together some of our qualifications and support materials that can help you deliver that foundation year, but it's not physically a thing that you register onto. So that's a bit of a headline rush through some of the T-levels information.